often people that come from a more religious background or perspective assume that people that use their intuition or that are psychic or have mediumship abilities are somehow operating at odds with their philosophies and their viewpoints. I think that one of the reasons that people have this offset in belief is that it has to do with modern nomenclature. The words that we use, the books of spirituality were written in ancient times, and the terminologies that were used are different than the words that we speak with today. For instance, it often surprises people when I tell them that I am a psychic medium and a minister. They're sort of like, can you do that? Like it just is something that sort of catches people for a second there. And I think that quantum physics and some of the more recent sciences that are coming to the forefront, that are bridging the gap, are really helping to demonstrate that spirituality is not such a bizarre thing. Our guest today is a highly special person. He gives a wonderful example of the union between religious thought and spirituality. His name is Robert Novak, and he's a really exceptional teacher, writer, speaker. He's a personal consultant, and he's also mastered the Yuen Method, that's Yuen, which is an energy medicine. We'll hopefully get him to talk a little bit about that in today's thing. He has authored books, and he is the creator of the Advancing Life Network, where he freely shares some of his inspired writings and meditations and videos. Another part of his transformational work are his 3 very profound meditations, and they're designed to improve and empower the connection and the communication with divinity, however that is you define that. And the names of those meditations are Sit with God, Christ Seed, and Inner Child. I think you're going to find his website very helpful because and some of you like to check that out ahead. So if you'd like to visit while you're listening, bewillingtobeamazed.com. Yep, that's it, bewillingtobeamazed.com. He's had a very successful traditional career in business. He was executive director of accounting and finance in an institution. And when his wife passed, his life and journey of transformation really began. He was just led to learn and experience many modalities of transformation. And he's met, in I think it was 2009, he met medical, intuitive, and mystic Carolyn Myss, M-Y-S-S, Mice. Upon their meeting, she asked him, "Are you a teacher?" And he was kind of surprised. And she had seen in him the teacher. And one of the things that I liked the most about what he had to say about himself was his identification with his 3 children. I think that it is our relationships that define us. So I really have a great deal of esteem for him for his works. He's also created an oracle deck, and we'll get him to tell you a little bit maybe about that too. That is an incredibly beautiful deck for those of you that like to use cards. And this one is different in that the detail on it is adequate for scrying. So you can do sort of a version of spiritual tarot, or actually spiritual oracle reading, oracle card reading, because the detail on the cards is so beautiful. So I would like to welcome to the show Robert Novak. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Tracey. You're, bringing tears to my eyes, bringing up my daughters. So, it's quite amazing the path that we go on. And of course, when my wife passed, I was left with 3 daughters to raise, and of course, still raising them. And what's interesting, on part of my journey, I was actually led to write about Restore Feminine Power, right? The whole aspect of bringing in the divine feminine. And that was quite an amazing little journey to be able to share that little document So that's also at my website. So by
I'm
all
sh-
means.
I'm sure that was also very significant for your daughters, to grow up without their mother present.
Hmm.
That can affect people so profoundly when they're missing a parent or have a parent that's living and absent in their connection with them.
Right.
That's really
Absolutely.
terrific. You know, Speaking of sort of the separation and our perspective and awareness of things at large, not just between spiritual things and religious philosophies, but there's really a divide inside of people between just their awareness, even of themselves. They have, differences of perspective of other people and of themselves and their disconnect with the environment. And so I wondered if you would be so kind as to start off talking about how you help people create universe.
Well, definitely one of my whole goals is to assist people open up to their unique, authentic self, right? To actually fulfill their destiny. And to be able to do that, I always like to, start with understanding, about this universe a little bit, that this universe is a creating universe. It's not created, it's not static, it is in constant motion. And this whole universe is a universe of potential. And we sometimes forget that because we think
Yes.
that is something that should be something else. But
No, it's true. We think here I am, and we partition sort of ourselves from the past and where we are now, and then our hopes for the future. We kind of box each of those separately, and we do forget that it is sort of a movie in motion, or it's a process in motion.
exactly. In fact, I always like to break it down to the simple, basic, items, and make everyone realize that the basic primary particles is what is made up of everything in this universe. So if we look at this energy potential, if we look at, just air or oxygen, we have an atom, and that atom has of course, nucleus, proton, electron, but there's basic energy particles that make up that, right? And it goes
Yes.
down to this basic item. And this is what makes up everything in this physical universe, including our body, right? And, I love the fact that quantum research, shows that this basic primary particles, or this energy, behaves in different ways depending on what the observer is expecting to see.
I love that. What the
Yeah.
observer is expecting to see. Hear that, y'all? It is about perception. It is
No
about
question.
perspective.
No question. And they themselves say, the only way they can explain that is that this must be intelligent. And I like to say that these basic particles have an innate awareness,
Yes, yes,
total innate awareness, right? So no different than you were talking about religion and psychic coming together. I mean, this is our innate ability, our God-given ability to be in
absolutely.
touch with this awareness.
Yes, absolutely natural. Absolutely natural. And I was raised in a Christian tradition, and then I got kind of deep into it when I was in my 20s in the Pentecostal church. And I was ordained through a church that's divine metaphysics, which kind of bridges those two worlds together there too. And that concept that, God, whatever God is, let's call it intelligence, is in all and through all, and that there is no place that God is not, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I like to share is that we are the instruments of creation that affect everything in the universe. And people ask, well, what about God, Source? I say, Source works through us like every other living thing in the universe,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what I also then try to get people to understand, that the belief that what you do won't affect another if they don't find out about it isn't true.
That's another kind of separateness. Yes,
Exactly
our
right.
actions do affect other people.
Absolutely. There is no separation, within us. And this is, I think, that our biggest disconnect, that somehow we don't recognize that we are part of the entire process of this universe, right? That somehow we
Yeah.
think we're separate and divided,
That's
and
a
we're not.
huge perspective. And it's
Huge.
true. It's true, but it's huge.
Exactly. So boiled down to, everything you do is your purpose and purposeful, because it
Mhm.
has an effect on everything, everybody. It's no different than like dropping a pebble in water and the ripple effect goes out. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that just makes me the next thought that I had was that if, if everything we do affects other people, sometimes we think things we do in secret don't affect us either,
Exactly.
too.
Right? I
Mm.
mean, it's very true. I mean, so even our thoughts, our emotions, the little things we do, it's felt on some level.
Yes. Yes, and if we are beings of energy, like I think of us as,
Yep.
and then we do, as we bounce into the other particles or the other beings, have an influence on them. I know in terms of, mediumship, when you come in contact with another energy, even if it's on the other side or whether it's on this
Yes.
side, that there's the potential of transferring personality and imagery and information, depending on boundaries and what you're going after. But
E-
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And even in touching on that, Tracy, which I think, is very important to share with everyone, we all have a signature, right? I mean, so when,
oh, I
whether
like
I
that.
do my
Yeah, a
work.
signature.
Exactly.
Yes.
When I do my work and whatever else, I mean, I'll feel that signature of the person. I know who that other person is in the work, that I'm working with someone, but maybe their father's there, or let's say the Christ is there, or Archangel Michael, or whatever else. You know these signatures.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yeah, I bet. I'm sorry to stay within Christian text because I'm just more
Right.
familiar with it, but I'm
Right.
thinking of that, now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face, then we will be known even as we are known. So we are seen, and I do think that we can recognize each other by our energy. Even someone coming in the room, coming up behind
Yes.
us in the room,
Yes.
sometimes you know who it is, even though you don't, you know.
Right.
And
Exactly. Right.
it's not their footfall or the sound they make or their that. It's just a sense of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, and continuing with, when we look at fulfilling our destiny and everything else, I do want to start sharing then about our amazing body, which again is made up the same basic particles as everything in this universe. So it
Yeah.
says that everything in us is aware, right? And to break things down even more with this, science has shown that, of course, every cell has cell receptors that's continually receiving information, like millions of pieces of information a second, right, to process and so forth. And of course, in every cell is the mitochondria, which is its own power plant. And in the nucleus of every living cell is DNA, which contains
Right.
the raw information or instructions that make us who we are and what we are according to science. But what's so fascinating about the DNA is that when you take out the DNA out of just one cell and
Hmm.
stretch it, it's 6 feet long.
Oh, like within one cell, it's
In one
6 feet
cell.
long. Oh,
One
wow.
cell. Exactly. So now, if you take out the DNA out of every cell in our body,
In one
okay,
body.
in one body, and you stretch it, it will stretch back and forth to the sun 150 times.
Wow.
Okay, now here's the even more fascinating thing is that when you take the DNA out of everyone's body and scrunch it together, it'll fit in the space as small as a grain of rice.
All the people on the planet.
All the people on the planet.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of
I mean, what
void
is
between there. Yeah.
exactly? It says we live in an engineered masterpiece,
Hmm.
right? Definitely a very sophisticated vessel and container.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
A temple. You know, definitely live in a perceiving, recording, and creating biocomputer, and to where every cell is an intelligent, and
That
every cell works best when they're in sync, communicating and supporting each other.
That's so interesting because when I'm teaching mediumship, I often tell people stop trying to use your five facilities, your sense of sight or hearing or whatever in the physical. Do that with every cell of your body. And I had no idea. That's so interesting.
Exactly, because there's an innate intelligence there. And so it's really, awesome that you're doing that. And when people can actually, if you want to say, get an energetic, strong feeling to feelings, perception, and intuition, then their insight or this innate intelligence works even better throughout the body, this communication. And we can explain more of that when we go forward, but it's just incredible. And can I share, kind of an example to get into more of even what I'm talking about?
We love stories. Yes.
Cool. So here, I'm at an expo, and I decided to at this expo to promote deleting stress and pain on the spot. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sitting in my chair behind a table at my booth, and a young lady walks up. Her name is Judy. And she happens to be have her own yoga studio. She has to be an Ayurvedic practitioner, very intelligent woman. But she was having a pain in her right shoulder. Okay, so it's like, and she'd like me to see what I can do with it. I said, wonderful. So let's go ahead. I asked her, well, what's the level of pain on a scale of 1 to 10? She said a 6. Okay, 10 being the worst.
Pretty significant, enough to get your attention. Definitely.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, so connecting with her, right, this innate intelligence of her, then I felt, okay, right shoulder. Well, right full shoulder felt strong. There was no energetic weakness. But then when we connect with, okay, what is the weakness? Her innate intelligence went to her left shoulder. So I strengthened her left shoulder. Then it went to her breastbone, strengthened her breastbone. Then it went to her reproductive system, strengthened her reproductive system. And I did it that quickly. And then I said, okay, Judy, what is the level of pain now? In amazement, she goes, it's at a 4. It's like, okay, Judy, now I want you to play with me, and I want you to tell me what you feel is weak between just these two things. Is it physical or non-physical? That is, the weakening effect of this symptom in your right shoulder, physical, non-physical. She says, okay, non-physical, which was right. Now, non-physical, again, breaks down between two different things. So I said, now tell me, is this non-physical thing, is it spiritual or mental? And she said spiritual, and it was right. So as soon as she hit spiritual, then I got the insight that this was a karma from her ancestors, and they had stabbed, someone in the shoulder.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Exactly, right. So just very quickly resolving it, then I said, Judy, how's your pain? She goes, it's gone.
Oh, yay.
Exactly, right?
Oh.
Right? So here's the thing. The mind or logic, that we use nowadays says that the right shoulder, what is the problem? Because that's where the pain is. That's where the symptom is. Or maybe it might have been something, a spinal nerve or something else. But that wasn't the problem. But here's the other thing to, really, take in consideration here when I said that, we live in this biocomputer, that our cells, okay, want to support and be in sync with each other, okay, working together. So the body identified other parts of the body that was weakening and not supporting, another part. So it wants to be whole. Our body wants to be whole, right? And in sync and support each other. Okay, now what does the mind like to do? It likes to separate things out. It likes to assign things of value, creating unevenness and judgment and imbalance, which of course creates things not in sync and working together as a whole.
Right.
Right. And if we go even things further, I mean, if we look at our current healthcare authorities, I mean, and talk about separating things out, they have over like 20,000 diagnoses and illnesses and diseases, and your body, your biological computer will not register a one of them, not a one of them, as a real problem, what you're experiencing.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So
Perception, perspective.
exactly. And this innate intelligence, the awareness that is in all things, also making up your biological computer, right? Your body is giving us indication that that's not the case. So again, in Judy's situation with her pain and symptom, okay, we'll call it, spiritual experiences or past experiences of hers or ancestors. It could be your descendants causing a symptom or pain. It could be the
Right.
collective, the culture, your family, or a religion causing the pain. And this is not just physical manifestation of pains or symptoms. I mean, this can be with your relationships, finances, career, all other aspects of your livelihood, right? Your
Yes.
body, your physical awareness will give you indications of what is weakening and limiting you and all those other areas of life as well.
Oh, that is really, really interesting. And it kind of ties in too with it was given to me through a reading that I got a friend of mine and I traded readings. And it was that if you give your energy away, and in this case, we were talking different relationships, you have the right to call it back, not necessarily from that person, but from the universe. And it was so exciting to think about my energy being able to be restored.
Yep.
And you're sort of talking about that. You're talking about sort of a deficit or a wound that could be from outside even the time capsule that your client lives in that could be restored quickly. And is that do you combine a different ways of working with people, or is that the Yuen method?
Well, I
Or
definitely work with the Yuen method, which is following the weakness, okay? Meaning that an energetic weakness. So here, connecting with the person, okay? Just connecting with that person in the wholeness of what that means, right?
mm-hmm.
And through this connection, okay, you will be given the things to follow that are weak to strengthen or delete those accumulated effects to restore the balance of what's going on.
Sort of like you wandered from the opposite side of her chest where you were drawn to the breastbone to the reproductive,
Exactly.
which was what was counterbalancing or counter challenging.
Right. It's just not supporting, right?
Yes,
So,
yes,
and that's where this wholeness is so important. If you look at the world, I mean, we all want to be whole, right? But
right.
we're at struggle because we put so many definitions on things.
When you talk about wholeness, take it a step further. Tell us your thoughts on wholeness exactly.
Well, you can look at many different aspects of that, but it really starts with the core of you and knowing who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from there, everything else is, what do I say? I don't want to say an illusion, but it is still part of what we're playing with here in this physical universe. So in that aspect, in wholeness, we want to look at the body, mind, and spirit aspects, and even the soul, right?
Well, you said no, you need to know. I want to emphasize this for our listeners. You need to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean your name, address, and phone number, but your sense of
Exactly.
being. So, how does that affect, or how do those components affect our sense of knowing that?
Well, of course they're going to affect it, right? I mean, because we have so many conflicts with things going on, mind, emotions, our spirit, right? And
Mhm.
that's where we need to get back to that core of us and say, wait a second, the real me is pretty divine. And how do we connect with that realness of us, okay? And then start showing up in the world doing that. Well, this is what I love to do is start removing those limitations so then we are not so, if I want to say, held back from actually showing up. So when we get into the aspects of whatever limitations, fears, whatever else, or everything I'm talking about here, working here in this physical body, this physical essence, this biocomputer, what things are in sync and working together? What are these weaknesses to where they're neutralized, to where now there's no longer something conflicting us?
Mm. Yes, yes.
Right? And if I could, let me share something else that just happened 3 weeks ago for me, if
Yeah.
I may. So this is beginning of a testimonial from a mom of a 19-year-old daughter, but she says, as a wife and mother of 3 children, all I want for my family is health, happiness, and prosperity. Starting at 12 years old, my only daughter has already had 3 major surgeries. She has ovarian cysts and endometriosis.
Mm.
I always worry about her immune system. Now at 19 years old, she came down with a double virus mono, CMV, and tonsillitis as well. She was
Wow.
hospitalized on Monday for many reasons. Her liver enzymes were high, her throat was closed and infected. She had enlarged lymph nodes on her neck, ear pain, a headache, and she was drooling because she could not swallow. She was on IV, had antibiotics, morphine for pain. She continued to thrash and cry in pain. The
Mm.
doctors told me she'll be in the hospital for a few weeks. I was also told her tonsils will have to come out once the virus passes. So I was in torture to watch my child in such pain. So now this was she went in the hospital on Monday. Already, quite a bit of pain prior to.
Yeah, and quite a book of symptoms and
Exactly.
experiences physically. Yes.
Exactly. So, a psychic medium who knows me in New York and knew this lady said, "Call me." So on Tuesday afternoon, I get on the phone with the mom, and I could hear the daughter, the 19-year-old daughter, thrashing in the bed next to her. Right.
Mm.
Worked on her, for an hour, by just talking with, the mom, and she was at least calm. I, then called her later that night, okay, and to find out what was going on. And she had been released from the hospital, not because of maybe some things I did, but the insurance couldn't pay for it all. But
Mm.
no matter what, the next day worked on her for half hour, the day after that, half an hour. Okay, so this is a Tuesday afternoon when I started. On Friday, okay, she had her appointment with her ear, nose, throat doctor. And she said, I watched the doctor closely as he looked in her throat and saw the look of confusion and amazement as he announced her tonsils are back to normal. It looks as if she had never been infected before. He also proceeded to say she may not need her tonsils out after all. When we left the doctor's office, my daughter said to me, Mom, it's like I was never sick.
Oh my God, what a way to end the first half hour. Oh my goodness. All right,
Right?
we're going to pick it right back up on the other side. I've got a few announcements when we come back, and all of you listeners will get the rest of that story.
Back to our show, From a Medium's Perspective, with host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Welcome back. If you missed the first half of the show or you'd like to listen to any of our past episodes, they are on YouTube. And while you're at YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. We would appreciate it. I just wanted to welcome you back, Robert. Wow, what a story to share, too. Please continue as if we didn't have a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must admit, being a part of that was so, impactful and powerful for me. But to share how and what I did, because I think it's very important, is again following the weaknesses. I mean, the initial 1 hour, session, I was following the spiritual experiences again back not only to her but her ancestors, and starting to resolve a lot of different karmic, things along with the ancestors, descendants, along the whole family lineage line, right? There's
Yes,
a lot,
yes,
right? There was a
yes.
lot. And so it wasn't just resolving the things was going on right now, but this girl is now going to have such an incredible life, because of that, right? Because those were resolved, and how beautiful to be part of that experience. But then from there, what I was getting at with, before with the body and it working in sync and communication with each other, then we started syncing up the cells with the spinal cord with the cells in sync and in communication and supporting all the other cells. And working, the quantum particles, the atoms, the molecules, the tissues, the organs, the systems, right, the structures, all aspects, in sync and communicating and supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be done, okay? We can do this for each other, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
that's why
Apparently, I want to learn.
yeah, exactly. This is why I love teaching it, but also being a part of it. And so this was such a beautiful and fascinating story. Now, this is just, again, a physical aspect, but take relationships, right? The same thing. We can feel into relationships, whether it be personal, social, business, things that are weakening us, and start resolving those things that affect, our connections with others.
Yes.
Finances, everything, okay? Our physical intelligence, which is aware, this whole awareness knows, right? And when we start connecting with it more, it does resolve things. We can change things in our life and quickly.
So what are the major blocks or barriers that you would identify maybe for people in general?
Right, exactly. So it does depend on each person. There's no question. But one of the things I like to share is the fact that when we do seek new experiences or our soul pushes us there or whatever else, that there's a resistance. I mean, it does challenge, our chemical continuity of our body's wiring. I mean, we're hardwired a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right, as we are right now. But when things are becoming newer, new experiences we want to have, there is resistance to break that bond, right?
Yes, yes.
And so that's the first thing I want people to realize, that it could feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. But that's again why I love doing the method I do, because we are strengthening things on the spinal cord, the central nervous system, where everything in our body has to process or is processed through our central nervous system. So if our central nervous system is stronger, right, it can
Uh-huh.
handle the changes,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. If it gets stronger, yes.
exactly, right? So this whole aspect of us, is so important, our central nervous system. And in fact, if we go, just to share one thing also, Dr. Bradley Nelson, who created the emotion code, but also the body code 2.0, he, also, I saw him demonstrate to where, again, people's symptoms or problems can be related to emotions, but emotions that are inherited, okay, from the ancestors. Okay,
What
so
was his name again? Dr. Bradley
Nelson, yes,
Nelson. Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Body Code 2.0,
Okay.
wonderful, program, highly suggested as well. But so here, we can inherit an emotion. What they did is they say, okay, is this from mom or dad? And let's say it's from dad. Okay, well, dad, is it from dad's dad or dad's mom? And they would go back to how many generations it would be. And then to resolve that inherited emotion, all they would do is rub a magnet on someone's spinal cord 10 times.
Mm.
Okay, so our spinal cord is very important, right, for us, this whole central nervous system aspect. And things can be resolved very easily. I mean, he has documented results where people are going to go into surgery, no different than Yuen Method, but people are going to go in, for surgery, release an inherited emotion, and therefore don't no longer need it,
Mhm.
right? So the things that we can do is there's no more limits, okay? But getting back to some of these barriers, I mean, our subconscious won't bring things in our life, right, if there's pain associated with it.
Right, right. Because as Esther Hicks and Abraham say, resistance is the opposite of satisfaction, and you have to have satisfaction if things are going to flow.
Exactly, exactly. And you know, a lot of times when, you know, I always hear you know, people, you know, saying, you know, I want more money, okay, which is great. Who doesn't, right?
Hmm.
Um, but if there's a weakness, again, this energetic weakness to want more money, then there's a concern. And a lot of times people then think it's scarcity or lack, but hey, guess what? There could be, again, in our spiritual experiences or our ancestor spiritual experiences where having money was a problem because the abuses one took for having money. So wanting more money could be limited because you had a lot and you were abused for it or
Yeah,
not
so
loved
there
what it
is
was.
that, yeah, that resistance against, I don't want to experience that again. So it sort of blocks
Exactly.
things.
Right? And you know, when we, you know, there's so many other, you know, things that can again be resolved, but you know, another, you know, barrier is of course beliefs or belief systems, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
the religious influences, you know, on our life. I mean, let's say for instance, we, you know, we want to hold a, you know, I'll just say a position of a CEO of a multinational, you know, corporation.
Uh-huh.
And in holding that, you know, you have a feeling, a sense of pride, or at least, you know, trying to, you know, bring that in. That's one of your sensations that you would have. It's like, wow,
Yes.
this sense of pride. Well,
Tremendous accomplishment. Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly. But in some of our religious circles, pride is not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think they maybe mistake arrogance for a feeling of accomplishment, maybe.
Exactly. Exactly. But no matter what, okay. So here, you know, as I work with people, you know, when especially when you get into religious things, people say, "Well, I get that," right? And consciously say, "Oh yeah, no, I get that." However, if there's this unconscious barrier, this weakness that exists in your spirit or your family spirit or, you know, the collective, whatever, that's still weakening you,
Mm-hmm.
then that needs to be resolved.
Right, right. Maybe even as from the opposite thing, maybe not a fear of wealth, but maybe a fear that you're not entitled
That too.
somehow to have what other people have
Exactly. Right.
too.
Exactly. So all of these things nowadays can be resolved and they can be resolved quickly. I mean, the wisdom is out there. You know, we are doing it. Again, whether it's the Yuen method, again, I love the body code 2.0. You know, we want to start continuing to do this and everything that I share with people is the fact that, you know, these resistances that we come across, it's normal. You're normal. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, this whole existence, this whole life is about self transformation, not condemnation.
Right, right. And I want to tell our listeners, some of you out there might be familiar with different energy healing modalities, maybe Reiki or Brennan or Donna Eden or something like that. The Yuen method is a more instantaneous way
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Yep.
Yeah, that it doesn't, I think that's also encoded in our belief system that we somehow have to wait or we have to suffer or we have to, you know, that we can't have that it has to be a slower process. And some things can be, but it's all, I'm sure, based on whether someone makes that uh, shift in perception
It,
at
it,
a subconscious level too, not just a conscious level.
exactly. And one of the things that you said, slowness, and that, you know, wants me to share with people, a lot of times we think that we need to slow down in order to connect and make things happen. However, slowness brings more stagnation, okay, in our energetics. We actually want to speed up. Okay, now I'm not talking about the mind speed
Yes.
up. I'm talking about, again, this internal dynamics, the dynamics of us. When things are sped up, you know,
Uh-huh.
then we now become in sync with the universe because the universe is moving, you know, very fast.
Right, right. And when we're out of body, we are moving much faster. We have a lightness of being because we have a higher vibrational state.
Exactly, exactly. So that is so important that we want to actually speed up the internals, okay? And that is possible too, again, energetically and deleting all the different slowness and stagnations and congestions and so forth that we've had, that we, these experiences, and that itself has resolved people's symptoms and pains because now everything is operating at the speed that it's supposed to be operating at.
Mm, yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
know.
sort of like yeah, the deficits or the parts that have been affected by whatever, whenever, by whomever can be restored by matching a higher resonance, which matches the rest of your being.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So, Tracy, I'd love to go into a little bit explaining how one would create a different reality in their life.
Absolutely. Tear into it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, of course, this being shared by Abraham Hicks when, Abraham was, asked, how do we create a different reality? And he said, you need to conjure a different vibration, right? Apart from your current reality.
Right.
And
Okay.
right,
Yes.
right. And so how do we do that? We need to connect, right, to something we want or desire to experience.
Yes.
So what I like to do, again, I'll use the example of wanting to be a CEO of a national company, right? I like to actually then physically do this. Okay, it's like, okay, I'm standing here and here's where I'm at now. But I'm going to go ahead and take a step. I'm going to take a step and I'm going to step into this essence of being the CEO of a multinational company. And with my awareness and imagination, I'm going to start feeling what this feels like, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to start
Because
saying,
because we
exactly.
can imagine it. We can. Yes.
Exactly, right? So, whatever this starts coming to feeling up, it's like, wow, courageous, confident, revered, accepted, intelligent, right? Whatever this starts to feel like, again, the sense of pride or connected to something even greater than themselves. So we stepped into this, new vibration. However, I like to take it one more step, meaning that I want then to, from that spot, now step into related experiences you would be experiencing as you are stepping into this new conjured up, vibration, this new reality that you want. What are these related experiences as well? So now take another step into a related experience and say, hey, you know what? I'm having now another related experience where I'm on this beach, and it's white and it's you got this beautiful ocean, and I'm feeling such expansiveness and freedom, right? Whatever that means for you. And,
Right.
and then for me, there, step into another related experience and connect with what that looks like, and step into another related experience. And then all of these different feelings, especially the ones of the related experiences, in my opinion, this is what you really are shooting for, anyways. You're shooting to experience these experiences, these feelings. Okay?
Yes, it isn't just the accomplishment, I like that because it expands it beyond just the definition into the function and the expression of that.
Exactly. Exactly. You've now starting to create a whole new expansiveness of who you are and who you came to be, right? And you're really starting to use your creative power connecting with all that is possible.
I just love that. I love it because it goes beyond just visualizing kind of that, like we started the show talking about a static point in space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now from there, I want you to take these feelings, these experiences, right, and start embracing them, embodying them. And what I like to do then is start really bringing them in, on the spinal cord, right? So then the physical intelligence, physical awareness will start changing that. The neural networks and everything else in your body will start saying, hey, I'm getting this. I want it to change. I want to start showing up, and the wiring start changing because it start connecting with these other vibrational aspects of you that you're now bringing into the spinal cord, where is the easiest place to elicit change, and everything has to happen through our central nervous system, right?
Okay.
So we're doing this, but then at the same time as we're doing this, we're connecting with the core inside of us, right? Because we're really starting to bring those in. We're not just
Right.
etherically feeling it, we're bringing them into that core, the divine in us.
Yes, yes. I like that. I'm just still stuck on that whole expanding into the connected experience thing,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes what people are aiming at is not what will bring them those feelings too.
Exactly.
And so they can kind of feel the consequences of how that would shift. I'm not saying in a dark and negative way. I'm just
Right.
saying, oh, that's actually, I didn't realize that if I got my master's degree that I'm going to end up being a teacher in a college. I really don't want to do that,
Exactly.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And since we're on these related experiences things, one of the things, again, I think that's the real key. I don't think it's like being the CEO as much as the related experiences people are really
Yes.
trying to get at. And so taking those feelings, like let's say on this beach of expansion and freedom, what I then like to do is come back to the spot, to our current reality. And I like to then go into our core of ourselves and quietly into that core, ask, I would love to experience more expansion and freedom. Please give me more of these experiences.
Right.
Right. So to me, now life becomes more full because you're connecting with the feelings, the experiences that you really want to have. You bring them back and you start having the experiences. You're right. It's not about being the CEO. It's not about being on the beach. It's really about everything else.
Yes, yes, yes. The things that it affords you a chance to experience
Exactly.
because
Right.
of the connection. I don't want to let you off the air without two things. One, at the very end, I want to make sure that we get your website and events that you host. But tell us quickly about why the words "I am here" are important.
Well, to me, again, to bring everything in, I love to be able to connect and say, I am here. I am here, because it brings it all in. It brings us to the point where we are now more present to be able to share ourselves from this space and experience from this space, because this is where the power really exists.
Yeah, I was thinking it's about knowing who you are
Mm-hmm.
and also standing up for yourself and saying, I am here,
Mm-hmm.
from two ways there that I'm sure more, but
Absolutely. Absolutely.
wow. Well, Robert, thank you so much. I want you to share some of the goodies that you offer
A-
with the
a-
listeners. So,
Absolutely. Tonight and every first and third Tuesdays of every month, I have a live event that's free, and it's at 7:30 Central. And I take callers in, and we start resolving the things going on in their life. Okay, so 5-10 minutes with each person. So I would love people, to be on, the call. You go out to my website at the top right. There's a counter up there talking about the live demos. Sign up, register, get on the call. Even if you don't get a chance to ask something, your life will improve by being on the call, because what I do, for one, it assists and helps everyone on the call. So definitely be a part of that. And then starting in October for a quarter, I have a gathering called Improve the Potentials of Your Life, where we are taking and finding weaknesses, the limitation in our life, and we are resolving those to get their body where it needs to be, the relationship and the finances in a stronger position so their potentials are better in life.
where can they find out more information about that?
At my website, bewillingtobeamazed.com. under the services menu, and you can definitely, find out more. And I have other training programs, and by all means, get the other meditations and ebooks. It's very, very insightful and very blessed.
You are so generous to share that. I just can't even begin to tell you how much I've enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you so much, Robert. A divine pleasure. And
Tracey, thank you. Thank you.
And for those of you that are listening, we'll see you next week. And just remember that it is never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing.